Hi everybody, it's Frank with tinyplasticspaceman.com. In this video, we're going to be showing you how to lubricate, clean, disassemble, reassemble, and attach your brand new airbrush. For this example, we're going to be showing you on the all-new Badger Extreme Patriot 105. And hopefully this will give you all the information you need to know. If you have any questions during the video, just ask down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like and follow us for future videos. So what we're going to do is basically just take it apart, lube it up, and get right to using it. So let's just get straight to using it. So just setting some of these aside and stuff that's in the way, trying to get it out of the way. Let's see here. So let me get my lubricant. I use the Badger Reg Dab needle juice. The Awada, I think it's called the super lubricant or something like that, or super juice needle something, I don't know. But basically make sure you have a bottle of this if you're doing any sort of airbrushing at all. And it's just super handy. So I'm trying to do this without getting too caught up looking at the screen. Make sure you almost dropped the nozzle there. Sorry for shaking the camera. Basically, when you get a new airbrush, generally you're going to have to do this. Just have a look around, lube everything up, make sure everything is okay. Now this is the first time I'm taking it apart, so if I do notice anything, I will point it out. So what I'm going to do is just give this a good clean. And what I've got here is my normal, this is my sort of my cleaning tub. I've got a piece of plastic mesh grating in there that's shoe glued in place at an angle, so I can just whack brushes against it, my normal paint brushes. But I have, and this is kind of, I don't know, it's not a trade secret, I tell everyone that about this, but I've got just an old toothbrush. I've cut the bristles down. So there's a normal toothbrush of the same exact design, amazingly. And so basically this makes it like a nice hard bristle, basically. And this is what I knock dry tip off of, or tip dry. But right now I'm just going to use it to clean the threads. There's, I guess the brass, or yeah, the brass gets some sort of corrosion on there or something. Don't know why. And I'm just basically just cleaning that off, because it is bare when it comes from the factory. So I suppose after the machining process, it just gets some stuff on it. It's not terrible, but ideally, so we're just knocking that corrosion off. Now it is a bit wet, so what I'm going to do is, I've got my quick release here. It's got about 23 psi going through at the moment, and just my good old boy 105, and I'm just going to use that like a mechanic would at a car mechanic's place, and just use that to blow the water off. You might see car wash guys doing this kind of thing as well. So apologies for the noise. But basically just getting all the water away. And we've got all the pieces of the airbrush here. Now, I'll cover this at some other stage. But this is as far the maximum that you ever need to break down your airbrush. You don't need to take the air valve out and all that stuff. If you ever do have to replace your air valve, you can buy parts for it, which is a nice thing about getting a brand name like Badger. but you never need to take apart the air valve. If you have a problem with the air valve, then there's something deeper going on anyway. Maybe you took apart your airbrush. So let's start putting this together. And first thing we're going to do, let's see here. It all goes together just the same way as the 105. So we're getting some lube on this. You can see we're being quite liberal with it. And that's a D shape in there. So you just make sure that this piece here, which should have some lube on it, make sure that has plenty of lube on it, so you can see, hopefully you can see that I'm looking at the actual piece. So this is your trigger sort of tightness valve. I like to have mine a bit loose. I'm just seeing what, not strictly necessary to put lube on this piece, but it is good practice. You know, it is metal to metal contact after all. So we're just screwing that on. I like to have my, if you like a tight trigger, like, you know, like a bit more effort to pull it back, screw it all the way down. If you like it a bit looser, say for detail work, have it, you know, screw it part way out. Now just for comparison, my general purpose, again, use this for everything, on my normal 105, it's about halfway in. You can see 2 or 3 of the threads there. So that's where I generally like to have it. And you can test that by simply just pulling back on that. So it's sort of a, for me, that's kind of a medium sort of feel. On my chrome, which has a higher trigger than the high roller trigger, it's very loose, it's very light. So this is part of the fine tuning that you can do with any decent airbrush. Now we're going to put the trigger assembly in. I'm not actually sure what this part is called. I will look that up. And we're going to obviously put the lubricant on there and screw that in. This goes screw down all the way, and that's what the knurls on the end are for. And then you adjust the tightness of your trigger. I'm going to leave mine about the same as my 105, just so I have a nice baseline comparison. Okay, so the next thing to go in is this piece. I don't know what it's called, but it's the curved piece that goes behind the trigger. We're going to get some lube behind on the bottom piece that goes into the air valve, and we're going to be quite liberal with it. And of course, I should have put this in beforehand, so I need to, there we go. Because that is a D-shaped portion inside there, I did just need to twist it a little bit. So now I put a lot of lubricant on there because it does pivot metal to metal. And the cool thing about this, I saw in another video, was that you can put that trigger piece and kind of kick it over to the side thanks to this little, the T-shaped cutout. So you don't have to, I usually struggle on that, and I don't know why, because it never occurred to me to actually use that piece. So you can see I'm putting lots on here on the trigger itself. Now this bottom piece, it's got like a little pointed divot in the very bottom. That's what actually contacts your air valve. The needle goes through the hole in the trigger, and then the sides here actually contact the body. So there's lots of lube on this piece. And also the curved side of the trigger contacts the top of this T-shaped piece. So all of that you have to keep in mind. That's why you need lube on the trigger. So now it's in when you can actually press it down just a bit like that, and then push this piece back in. I hadn't actually tightened that all the way down, and then that will push that forward, and then you can get a gauge of where your trigger is. Now the rest of it. Putting some lube on the threads. So I put the lubricant and the O-ring that's included on the Extreme 105. And then we're putting some lube where the nozzle is going to rest. And then just give that a little bit of a twist so it gets nicely coated. And then we've already got threads there. Lubricant on those threads. And we're just tightening it finger tight. Don't need to be any more than that. Putting some lube on there. That's the needle chuck. The final thing to go in, apart from the very back, which is kind of hidden away, is the needle. Now I don't need to clean the needle. Just make sure it's not got any debris on it or anything from rolling around. And then we're just going to get plenty of oil all up and down that. And then the key thing to remember is that when you're storing this away, don't let it like in a toolbox or something like that. Try and keep it standing up, because the tip will leak and you'll get oil all over everything. That's why the outside of it looks like it's had oil on it. It's because it has. Alright, so now we're putting this back in. We're testing to make sure that the fit of the trigger is still good. And we're holding that in place. And then we're just going to gently slide this in. You'll be able to see it go through the paint cup and come out the front. I don't know if you saw that come out the front, but it did. And then just hold that with one of your fingers and tighten the needle chuck down. And then give another test, make sure the needle moves back and forth properly. Now if that isn't tightened down enough, when you press for air, you're going to be getting paint. So yeah, make sure you don't do that. Okay, and then finally, just to help prevent corrosion, again, just getting some lubricant on just a little bit. I mean, this doesn't actually, there's no air that's coming around here. It's purely just to keep corrosion down. And then as that gets threaded in, it gets coated everywhere. So there we go. So now what I'm going to do is put this away. I'm going to take the quick release, I guess the male connector, off of my Renegade. I'm going to see if I can find Teflon tape or plumber's tape or PTFE tape. I cannot find any, so I'm just going to get some of the lube on here. And then just screw that on. So it'll be, well, it should be airtight enough to spray at the low pressures I'll be spraying at. And then some paper towel. Actually made a dispensing rack sort of thing for big shop towels. Right, okay, so now we're ready to go. Again, the Extreme 105 set does come with an adapter to fit 1/8 inch air hoses. So basically it's any standard Iwata or no brand connector. So I have a quick release, and basically the end looks like that. So if your end is like fat, basically, you have a 1/8 inch. I like to use the quick releases because they're just super handy. So I hope that has shown you everything you need to know about disassembling, reassembling, lubricating, cleaning, and attaching your new airbrush. If there's any questions that you have, be sure to ask down in the questions down below, and either myself or someone else who's watched the video will answer your question for you. Please catch us on Facebook. Just search for us, Tiny Plastic Spacemen on Facebook, and on Instagram, TPS Painting Studio. That's it. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it. And again, please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Once again, this has been Frank, and we'll see you in the next video.